One afternoon, Kim and I had the privilege of visiting a really old cottage in Moonta. It was the Miners Cottage, and we were about to learn some interesting information about the cottage and the people who lived there back in the early days. The cottage was built around 1869, 1870, and if you look at the roof, you can tell that the kitchen was built first. Then, when they had a bit more money and time, they built the next room. So when they were building a room, they lived in a tent. And they lived in the tent for about 5 years. Mum and Dad still slept in the tent, and in the house were all their belongings. They would have had an open fire every night. Not glamorous because, not much to eat. The family had a lease from the company, and the family lived there for 100 years. They built the house, and the company could have taken the house over at any stage. That's why it was all leasehold. Electricity came in 1954, and the mine house was 1920. Long time ago. Now they only have one power point. One power point. Now the people who left there were the original family, and they left in 1968, which was when the National Trust took over. They had not modernised the house. This house doesn't have a sink in it. There's no bathroom in this house. So they had no running water in the house, and they would have had to carry water in buckets, heat it on the fire, done their dishes on the table, and for baths they had a copper. Buckets of water and big tubs, so there's no bathroom, no kitchen sink, or anything like that. So very old-fashioned. So the family took all their belongings, and rightfully so. The National Trust have decorated what could have been here at some stage over its 100 years. So we've got artefacts that people have given us. We put them all throughout the house. What it could have looked like. Dirt underneath the lino. If you notice, the floor goes down on different levels, so mind the steps. And the doors, windows are all different shapes and sizes, so that they've been built pretty good really. So it's been 50 years empty, but the fact that we open it as a museum enables the house to live on. Houses are better lived in than empty. The next room that would have been built on the home would have been the lounge room. There are photos on the wall and furniture, other items on display, things like that. Built-in furniture in the corner along with other artefacts. They've got some lovely items in the next room, and as you can see, the wall does not go up to the ceiling. That would have improved airflow. And also, if the mother was outside, she would have been able to hear her baby crying. That pram over there is an original pram from the original family in England. John Wood's family in England made fine pottery. And when he came here though, he made bricks. So he was actually a brickmaker. He possibly had a bit more money than regular miners, but he came from a reasonably wealthy family in England. We think this cottage is a bit bigger than a lot of other cottages. When the babies grew out of this room, they would then go and share in this room. This photo is of the parents with 8 of the surviving children. They had 14 children, and 8 survived to be adults. In the next room, you can see the original roof made with wooden shingles up here, which has been covered by the National Trust, who put corrugated iron onto it to collect the rain. Water was at a premium. The children probably slept in the double bed. They would have had to top and tail. So when one got sick, they all got sick. Thank goodness for vaccination nowadays, because we don't have any of these diseases that they died from. This next room was called the Front Parlor, and there was probably no children allowed here. They would have had Bible study, the church minister would have been invited for afternoon tea and things like that. The organ would have been for hymns and not for frivolity. No frivolity! Church was very important, and it was a place where you could catch up on all the gossip. Also have weddings and funerals, lots of social occasions, dances, picnics and so on. And also the church encouraged education of children, so the children had to go to school until they were 14, girls as well as boys. And they started the first school of mines in South Australia, in Moonta, just down the street. In the town square, I don't know if you've been there yet, there's a statue of Richard. He was Sir Richard. He grew up here. And his mother said, don't go down the mine, go up to the sky. And he actually went flying in World War I. And he initiated the development of the Royal Australian Air Force. Wow, isn't that amazing? Education helps. Here is the main bedroom behind the door. There's a built-in wardrobe and ensuite toilet on your right. Yep, there it is. This is not a bad sized room really, and the ceilings are quite high too. Yes, quite comfortable. Now the garden is managed by a group of volunteers, fabulous people. In the old-time gardens, I would have had sunflowers. Flowers are good for the soul, so they needed flowers for funerals, weddings and so on. who would have also grown a lot of their own fruit and vegetables, but obviously water was in short supply. So they had to conserve their water as much as possible. They also had goats, which they used for meat and milk. Goats are better than sheep because they use less water. They're not as fussy about what they eat. They also had chickens, and they probably never ate the chickens until they were about 10 years old and died, because they needed the eggs, and that was more important. They would have been pretty tough old things by that stage. The garden is very pretty at the moment. Here is the rest of the garden and the scenery. Please visit the Miners Cottage and speak with the host to take you on your own special tour through this part of Moonta's history.
Jesus has a plan for every woman, every man. Without him you can't do nothing at all. Jesus paid the price for the sin upon your life. He paid it once for all. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best for his children. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best, so he gave us the ticket to freedom. Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, ticket to freedom is the greatest gift in his hand. Ticket to freedom is the only way to get to God. Ticket to freedom is the only thing I know I've got. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best for his children. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best, so he gave us the ticket to freedom. Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, ticket to freedom is the greatest gift in his hand. Ticket to freedom is the only way to get to God. Ticket to freedom is the only thing I know I've got. Nails in his hands and a nail in his feet, blood and water coming out of his side. They nailed him to the cross and they left him to die, 'cause they didn't know their left from their right. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best for his children. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best, so he gave us the ticket to freedom. Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, ticket to freedom is the greatest gift in his hand. Ticket to freedom is the only way to get to God. Ticket to freedom is the only thing I know I've got. I see the people in the bar trying to drown away the scars that have kept them in the gutter of life. They think they got it made by the way they get paid, but the truth cuts like a knife. Jesus is God in the flesh and he wanted the best for his children. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best, so he gave us the ticket to freedom. Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, ticket to freedom is the greatest gift in his hand. Ticket to freedom is the only way to get to God. Ticket to freedom is the only thing I know I got. Jesus has a plan for every woman, every man. Without him you can't do nothing at all. Jesus paid the price for the sin upon your life. He paid it once for all. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best for his children. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best, so he gave us the ticket to freedom. Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, ticket to freedom is the greatest gift in his hand. Ticket to freedom is the only way to get to God. Ticket to freedom is the only thing I know I've got. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best for his children. He was God in the flesh and he wanted the best, so he gave us the ticket to freedom. Through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, ticket to freedom is the greatest gift in his hand. Ticket to freedom is the only way to get to God. Ticket to freedom is the only thing